Hello. Hello, and welcome to the series Understanding Your ICF Core Credentials, or Understanding Your IC Credentials for that matter. And we have been talking about the ICF Core competencies. We've covered the first six competencies, and today we'll be talking about the seventh competency, Evokes Awareness. Now, before we get into that, I would love for you to let me know how are you finding the series? How are you finding understanding what goes into the ICF credential? What is the difference between the different credentials, ACC, PCC, MCC, or what is life coaching and executive coaching all about? What are the different parameters that is required? And the test, of course, the test that you've been taking. And thank you so much. I've had absolutely lovely reviews about the test that is there. For each competency, there is always a link in the end, and please go ahead, take the test. It's I've actually reviewed quite a few tests that has been taken, and it's absolutely wonderful to see the kind of effort that you have put into the test. And the test has not only given you a glimpse of where you stand, but it's also been a learning journey for you as to the nuances of the different aspects of the core competencies that is there. So thank you so much for being there. And yes, do put in a comment if you like this, and also do let me know what you would like to hear more about with regards to understanding your ICF core credentials or understanding your ICF credentials. You can always put it in a comment or message me separately in the chat box as well, right? So let's talk about the the core competency evokes awareness, the seventh core competency of ICF. And to my mind, this is really the crux of it all. This is what it all boils down to, evoking awareness in the client. I mean, that is what we are here for. That is what is the core essence or doing anything else for. It's actually to evoke the awareness in the client. Because coaching at the very core of it is about partnering with the client to help the client find the solution from within themselves to whatever solution, to whatever problem the client is facing in their life. It's not about giving the solution to the client. It's not about telling the solution or telling the client what are the different options that is there, but helping the client find the solution from within themselves, from the very core of their being. And that requires us as coaches to evoke that awareness in the client. And in fact, this is what, if done properly, if the leaders can imbibe this quality and parents can imbibe this quality of just being quiet and just allowing the solution to emerge from the client or from the team member or the child, it can create wonders in the relationship between the two as well, because even a child knows exactly what the child wants to do. uh, Even a 5-year-old today will tell you, no, I don't want to do it this, and this is how I want to do. So imagine when you're coaching somebody who is at an executive level, or who is at if you're coaching somebody for marriage, a teenager, those people know what the solution is. They're just not ready to tap into that solution yet. They're just not ready to face themselves and understand that, yes, this is the solution that I want in my life. It's either something which is stopping them, or it's something which is the very much resistant to actually apply in their life. It really comes down from these two aspects, and telling will really not work in this case. So just to give you a brief idea before we move ahead, as far as the coaching competency evokes awareness, it's a new core competency in ICF, and it puts together the three old core competencies of powerful questioning, direct communication, and creating awareness. So these three core competencies actually come together to form the current core competency evokes awareness, which is basically about
how ICF defines it is facilitates client insight and learning by using tools and techniques such as powerful questions, silence, metaphor, or analogy. So, so we see it starts with powerful questioning, and that was actually the essence of powerful questioning or direct communication or creating awareness. We are asking powerful question to evoke that awareness in the client. We are keeping the communication directly on the subject, on the agenda that the client wants to to resolve in the coaching session. And of course, the last is creating awareness. And instead of creating awareness, instead of telling the client that this is something that you would want to do, evokes awareness goes a step deeper into it. Evokes awareness comes from reflecting inside. It's actually creating that innermost shift in the person. Unless and until you create, you move inside the person and actually work on the who of the person, evoking awareness is very difficult. It's allowing the client to come up with the solution from themselves. And the difference between creating awareness and evoking awareness is so beautiful. Creating awareness comes from outside. It's actually something which is happening. You're creating something out of what you already know. But evoking awareness is actually happening from within. It's happening because there is something within you, and you're making the client aware of that something that has been holding the client back, or that has been lying dormant in the client, and the client is just not aware of it. So I read something very beautiful yesterday. Let me just now bring it forward to you. It says coaches must generally be gentle in their approach to surfacing interference to learning and performance in an individual or team. Hence, suggestions and indirect probing, though they may seem to take longer than a more direct approach, are usually more successful over the long run. And that is what evoking awareness is about. It's not actually about giving the solution to the client. It's not about helping the client realize that these are the options. And it requires tremendous patience and trust in the client as coaches as well. If at certain point of time, after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or even an hour, if you kind of already have that, this is the solution. Why is this person, this my client, why is he not reaching to this solution? He's already been saying it again and again and again, but he's just not getting there. Let me just give it to him. The difference between raising awareness to what the client has already been saying and just giving in to him is so subtle that when I evaluate coaching sessions, the person might be saying the same thing, but the tonality, the approach, the even the patience level of the coach kind of shows in that. And when the coach is creating awareness or raising the client's awareness to what the client has already been saying, it's a gentle probing that happens. It's almost like, I've heard you say that integrity matters a lot to you. Over and over and over again, you've mentioned love and integrity. Uh, I'm just wondering, how does this relate to the agenda that you mentioned? And that is that is actually putting together what the client is saying and what the client wants to solve. Vis-a-vis telling the client, I hear that love and integrity is very important to you, and I'm just, thinking that you're just not putting it in your coaching sessions, or you're not just putting it in in working with your subordinates. So, h- how is this going to happen any which ways, right? So you are actually, in the other sense, also asking a question to the client. And when I coach people or when I supervise the sessions, they are actually challenging me, saying that I am still asking the question. So why is it not correct? And the answer is that it's a very subtle way of correcting it also, or of analyzing it also, evaluating it also. Because when you are raising awareness, Are you putting yourself in a position where you are actually curious about the client? Or are you actually putting yourself in a position where you become the problem solver for the client? And that's a very big difference between the two. Are you becoming curious of what the client wants? Or are you wanting to solve the problem for the client? You want to reach to the conclusion and say that, okay, I have helped my client reach the solution. It's not, coaching is not about collecting metals at the end of the coaching session. It's not about getting the client to those aha moments. Oh, we love those aha moments in the coaching session. But it's actually about remaining curious and remaining aware of what the client wants. It's actually about helping the client travel the journey inwards. And when you help the client travel the journey inwards, it helps the client become aware of how and when does the client want to solve the problem. So let's look at the parameters that ICF mentioned for Evokes Awareness. It says considers client's experience when deciding what might be most useful. So it's coming from the client's experiences. And it's when it says considers client's experiences, there is no way that the client can tell you the entire experience of their entire life in 1 hour or 10 hours, or even if you're bum chum pals with a client, the internal experiences are always different. So help the client realize their experiences and let them decide what is most useful for them in the current situation. Challenges the client as way to evoke awareness or insight. Oh, this is so important. There are times when you have to challenge the client and yet not get stuck to what you're challenging the client with. Challenging the client yet remaining not attached to the challenge is very, very essential, because you there are times when, let's go back to the previous example, and we say that um, love and integrity is very important to you, and I do not hear you mention it in your uh, with respect to how you're treating your subordinate. You might actually be challenging the client in that very sentence, and that can be revealed only by how your rest of the coaching session is. So one is, of course, evaluating the coaching session, and one is being in the coaching session. The same thing can come from a position of challenging the client or telling the client. But even when you're challenging the client, being mindful of, are you doing it to evoke that awareness in the client, or are you doing it to cut short the coaching session? So uh, that again is a difference which you have to be mindful of, and it's important to be in your own supreme state, a supreme state of excellence, being completely mindful of who you are when you're challenging the client as well. Ask questions about client such that their own way of thinking, values, needs, wants, and belief. Uh, Sentence seemed incomplete to me, but ask questions about the client, such as their own way of thinking, values, needs, wants, and beliefs are addressed. Of course, that's what is the crux of it again, right? Uh, if we are not understanding what the client's thinking, values, needs, and wants and beliefs are, if you're not helping the client realize what their thinking, values, wants, and beliefs are, how are we actually helping the client to reach anywhere? How are we actually helping the client to become aware of what is stopping the client or what is helping the client move forward? It comes from the values and the beliefs and the purpose and the identity that the client holds. And in Inner Shift coaching, we started right from the very beginning. We actually we have this entire framework of coaching which says IC probe gap. And right in the beginning, we help the client realize, so what is the problem that you're facing internally in being harmonious with your subordinate? Let's say. And it's not about the problem outside, it's what the client is facing inside. It's the values and the beliefs. What is limiting you currently? What do you currently believe about how you interact with your subordinates? And it's the beliefs and the values that you're actually holding inside, which is either stopping you or propelling you to move in the direction that you don't want to move. And when you get a clarity of the values and the beliefs, uh, it's helps you to overcome that journey so much faster. So while ICF says that at PCC level, values and beliefs and the who of the client is much more important, and at MCC level, it's all about the who of the client. Uh, if you can actually learn to address that even at ACC level, when you start your coaching, it's a beautiful journey because coaching is an internal journey. It's not an external journey. So yes, as addressing the values and the needs, the wants and the beliefs and the thinking of the client is very, very essential. Ask questions that help the client explore beyond the current thinking. Invites the client to share more about their experience in the moment. So, if you take both of them together, exploring beyond the current thinking and share more about the experience in the moment, what you're actually doing is wherever we are stuck, we have our own mental map. We create our own boundaries of staying with the problem. We create our own safe space to stay with the problem. And one of the most common problem that everyone I think on earth has is following the diet, going to the gym, being healthy. Everyone is just wanting to do that, but not doing that. And there is a perfect strategy, a mental map of why it's not possible. And when you can actually help the client explore what is it that you're experiencing in the moment that you're not doing it, and what is it something that is beyond your current thinking. It's not just in the box, it's just something which is outside, something that you've really never thought about, beyond whatever you have gone through and beyond whatever you are thinking or imagining right now, because right now you've created that mental map in your mind. And when you let go of it, when as a coach you can help the client let go of that mental map that the client has created in that moment, and help the client experience from every sense whatever the client is experiencing in the body, breath, energy, thoughts, thinking. When the client becomes aware of what is happening, the client will be able to explore what to do next as well, right? So the next parameters are notices what is working to enhance client's progress. So, as we spoke about it in listening actively, you're listening not just to the words of the client. You're actually, as a coach, as a leader, or a parent, or a friend, anyone, you're listening to the whole of the person. And when you're listening to the whole of the person, you listen to the pauses, the ahas, the head nods, the body movement, the jerks, the subtle flow, everything. And you also become aware of what is working in that moment for the client. So you actually, whether, and sometimes it comes from the words as well, and you keep noticing it, and you actually bring it forward to the client again. You notice what is actually working for the client, and then you use it in any which ways that is required. Maybe sometimes you just keep quiet about it. You just notice that yes, the client is moving in this direction. Sometimes you bring it to the client's awareness. Sometimes you use it in your coaching session as well. You use the client's words. You match the physiology of the client. You match the breath of the client to help the client move forward. So noticing it and using it in a manner to enhance client's awareness to the solution that the client is so wanting to achieve in that session with you. The next parameter is adjust the coaching approach in response to the client's needs. It's similar to the last one. Of course, we are talking also about the need of the client over here. So if the client is flowing in another direction from the fixed agenda that is there, You're actually helping the client realize that, okay, you were earlier talking about this, and this was the agenda that we had spoken about. Do you now want to talk about this? Okay. Or bringing it kind of ties up with the coaching agreement as well when we had spoken about it. Or just balancing, okay, while you're talking about this, how does this go back to the agenda that we have spoken about? So it's in the moment. There is nothing in coaching which is fixed in stone. It's in the moment. As you keep enhancing your ability as a coach, you will also keep realizing how to keep yourself aware of what is the requirement as the coach that's there in the moment. And that is why the levels of coaching keep going up. That's why there is AC, PCC, MCC, and no two PCC are the same, no two MCC are the same. Nobody is the same, right? It's an ongoing developmental journey. It's like, again, I say this a lot. It's like parenting, or just raising yourself. It's like self leadership or others leadership. You never know what's the right thing to do. You might have 10 best ways to do it, but application of those 10 best is also in your hand, right? So the other parameters are: helps the client identify factors that influence current and future patterns of behavior, thinking, and emotion; invites the client to generate ideas about how they can move forward, what they are willing or able to do; supports the client in reframing perspectives; and shares observations, insights, and feelings without attachment that have the potential to create new learning for the client. So, it's the last one is very, very important. When and the small phrase in it, without attachment. While we are all over here to raise the client's or to evoke the client's awareness to whatever the solution is, and we are 100% observing the client, we are 100% being with the client. There is also this a small voice in us that kind of says that, let's I can give the solution to the client and I can help the client move forward. And in that journey, there is a push and a pull that happens. And quite a few times, we get attached to the solution that is there in our head. That might be the right solution, but it's not for us to decide as coaches or as leaders or as parents or as a friend also. It's not for us to decide whether that's the right solution for the other person. So, not getting attached to that, raising the client's awareness to it is very, very important, but not getting attached to the solution is also something which is very essential. So, in a lot of coaching sessions that I evaluate, and especially because it's going for ICF and it's for the uh, the purpose of clearing ICF, there's a lot of times when the focus is on helping the client to reach to the conclusion. But even ICF says that it's not about helping the client to reach to the solution. It's about helping the client to evoke that awareness that is there in the client, to help the client take that journey within, to help the client to become aware of what the client was not currently aware of. Maybe the solution doesn't come immediately, maybe the solution will come gradually. But are you helping the client become aware of what the client is not currently aware of? And that's what the entire coaching session is about. And that's what evoking awareness is essentially about. Everything that we do comes down to it. It really boils down to evoking awareness in the client. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I hope you found it very, very useful for yourself. My name is Prosperity. I'm an Inner Shift Head Coach, an ICF certified PCC coach. And if you have any queries about ICF Core ICF credentials, again, ICF credentials, ICF Core competencies, how to get your own uh, credential in ICF, how to become a life coach or an executive coach, any question that you have, please feel free to leave it in the comment box or message me and I will get back to you. And thank you very much for being over here. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye. Have a nice day.